Good evening. Deb?
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Von Rudenberg. Here. Deputy Mayor Canestrino.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sims.
Here.
Councilmember Pataglia.
Here.
Mayor LaBrus is absent. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sec. Notice having been published according to law with a copy on file in the city clerk's office and a copy posted on the bulletin board in City Hall.
Can we all stand for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, City Manager, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the Tuesday, January 28, 2020 Committee of the Whole agenda. First item is the discussion reference the building department zoning fee increase. We just recently had a department heads meeting. I encourage all department heads to make sure that we stay within the scope of these fee schedules, and we do comparisons of other municipalities, and zoning came up short. So fencing, paving, on-site walkways and sheds are $45, should be raised to $60. Zoning applications are $35 currently. The recommendation is they should be raised to $50. If the mayor and council sees fit to approve this, I would ask for you to approve this, because we're just trying to make sure that we cover our operational costs. I don't know when the last time this fee was updated, but it appears that it's been time. Pardon me?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. If there's any questions, I'll move on.
I'm okay. Everybody else?
Next is the amendment to the massage ordinance. I'll leave all the rest of that alone, and I'll stay with the script. The massage ordinance change grandfathers existing licenses, but will not be a concern per the health officer, since almost all already have such a storefront. No buzzers. The no buzzer rule applies to all licensees. That's as much easier to change. This is the recommendation from our city attorney.
And just to speak to that, obviously there was an incident at a massage parlor in Hackensack in the last week or two, and in reviewing the circumstances of that, as you may be aware and people watching at home, in 2018 we passed a very comprehensive ordinance regulating massage industry. Because look, we do want to encourage legitimate spas. They perform a nice service, and certainly in a service-based retail environment, they can be positive additions to the community. However, obviously there is in some massage parlors have a reputation for unsavory conduct. So in looking at this, there were a couple of issues that we thought required some tweaking, and really it's two changes. The first is that the storefront, meaning the outside, has to be glass or some sort of see-through material. So you'd be able to go in, not the massage tables themselves, but you'd be able to look in and see the front of the massage parlor. Presumably there'd be a check-in station. You'd be able to look in and see that. And the second is, prohibiting door buzzers, where, essentially you ring the bell and they buzz you in, as opposed to, something that somebody can just walk into, which is what you would expect a legitimate spa to be able to do. The concern was, obviously getting rid of a buzzer is not a particularly burdensome task, but if you have to change your storefront, that potentially could be impossible. And I've checked with the health officer, and there's really no businesses that we have any concern of that have these sort of storefronts. If there's one or two at most, and they're established businesses, and so we didn't want to impose a regulatory requirement that would be practically impossible for them to remain in business. But going forward, and if they move their location, obviously it would no longer be grandfathered. If they wanted to expand, they would have to have the proper storefront. But as long as they have the current license and the current location for the storefront, that'll be effective for any new licensees. I think we put in March 1st, and the buzzer would be effective for everybody March 1st. And I'm sure the health officer will, once this is adopted, we'll have her send out a letter with a copy of the ordinance to all the licensees so they understand what's expected of them.
Excuse me, this particular place was on the first floor or second floor?
Second floor.
Okay, so
I have
then-
no details of the specific
But I
of what
know.
happened.
So what happened? How you gonna enforce it? The business on the second floor that you want the storefront with glass. So if they're on the second floor, even they got the glass, you're not gonna see nothing. So from now on, you are telling me it's like a business like that. It has to be on the first floor, and that way they can have the glass on the front.
Well, I mean, you could replace the door with a glass door. You have
The door,
to.
yes, the
yeah.
door on the first floor. So when they go up
But-
there,
but I mean-
the business is there.
But I mean, if the business is on the second floor, right? You can have a glass door. You can replace a regular door with a glass door, or something where people from the outside could look into the business and be able to see inside to at least the entryway, right? Because the goal is to avoid having it be, this kind of secretive place where, you wouldn't be able to have any idea what's going on inside or what the nature of the operation is. But look, I mean, there may be some circumstances where, a new massage business is going to have to look and find an appropriate place to do business.
I recommend to be on the first floor.
The first floor or wherever, but regardless of where they're located, you're going to have to be able for people from the outside to be able to
Okay.
look into the
When
facility.
you say outside, is it outside, like on the street, or like?
No,
in a hallway?
in the entrance, basically, so you could see inside the facility itself. So, right, if you're on a first floor storefront, it would be glass. If you're in a medical building, right, you could have a massage therapist in a medical building at one of the HUMC's medical complexes or something. They would have to have it so that you would be able to, if the health officer wanted to walk by, she could stick her head, she could look inside and she could walk in the door, as opposed to, the concern with these things is that, hey, they get a report that the police are coming, right? You can't see in, they have the buzzers, and then they, essentially scatter or, start hiding evidence or do something to make it harder for us to be able to ensure that they're doing the right thing. Any legitimate massage therapist should be, more than comfortable with having, the ability of someone from the outside, whether it be a police officer, the health officer, or a member of the public, looking in and seeing, it's a clean, nice facility. There's a receptionist and, some tables and, waiting area, and so forth. And again, I'm speaking pretty much on behalf of the health officer. These recommendations were not mine. They've come from her because she reviewed the circumstances and felt that this was the appropriate thing to do. All I did was kind of change the language to make it, I thought, a little bit more effective and a little bit more precise. But the recommendations really are from her, and I believe the city manager concurred with her advice as well.
Okay, any questions, or we can move on? Okay, next is the 89 State Street removal from the abandoned property list. The city obviously has staff that is reviewing abandoned properties, blighted properties, properties that are non-exempt, that don't have to pay taxes. So we're continually to look at these items because it's tax dollars that may be missed or should be inclusive of. So one of the things is the resolution is removing 89 State Street, also known as Block 214, Lot 21, from the city's abandoned property list to facilitate the transfer and rehabilitation of the property. So as we focus on these blighted and properties, we're trying to get them cleaned up, get them on the tax roll, and maybe they become part of the new redevelopment, or they become a new business a massage with a big window in the front.
Yeah.
So we're always
The
trying to
video
find,
Yeah, and if I can kind of jump in on this as well, because there was a little bit more of a backstory in this one as well. 89 State Street is owned by the Salvation Army.
Right.
And there was a Salvation Army facility there that I had a fire or something back in 2007, 2008. The construction official at that time, I guess was not happy with the pace of rehabilitation of the property and put it on this abandoned property list and recorded it as a lis pendens with the Bergen County Clerk's Office, which essentially is a cloud on the title of the property. Eventually, the property was cleared. As far as I understand, it's just a lot right now. There's no, ruins, no structure on it. And now it's come time, obviously, the rehabilitation that the council has been so heavily involved with is going well. The property is now a desirable piece of land. The Salvation Army is looking to sell the property, and the problem is that, the purchasers looking at this, they do a title search, and this abandoned property comes up, and it creates a problem. If you're trying to finance a property sale, you don't want to have any sort of risk that the city might foreclose on the property or something. So the Salvation Army's attorney contacted the construction office. Quite frankly, we were trying to figure out exactly what to do about it, and it seemed that the easiest way to deal with this would be for the council to adopt this resolution that effectively says, hey, look, we recognize the property is cleaned up. And look, we are going to remove our lis pendens, and you can go sell the property, and hopefully develop something productive on it going forward, rather than having a vacant lot on State Street. So that's where this all comes from, the genesis of it.
And I think I read that we had the tax assessor look, and any tax fees, everything is, that's
That-
another reason that it was made
That-
on
that-
abandoned property, that they, the city had
Yeah.
a debt owed to them based on that property. But we've checked, from what I've read, that all of that is clear, so there's no reason to not remove it.
The tax assessor has made clear that taxes are current. I have asked all of the city offices whether anybody has any records of any fines or anything due and owing on the property. I have been advised, no one has advised me that there are, so, based
As
upon
long
that,
as they do a thorough research,
make
make sure
you know,
we get if anything was due.
yeah,
then I'm fine with it.
and again, I'm relying upon the advice of our, city officials on that they have not identified any reason to believe that there is anything due and owing on this property. And again, removing the lis pendens wouldn't relieve them of that. The lis pendens is really specific to the abandoned property issue, because it essentially is notice that the city, if that structure had not been removed, the city could have actually moved to take over that property, to essentially, for lack of a better term, almost like an eminent domain proceeding, and have right of ownership, and then it could have cleaned up the property, billed the property owner, or sold it itself. And so, that the fact that we're doing this wouldn't relieve any obligations due, but the fact is we are taking this action, so we wanted to check and see, because, we are doing something to help them out, and so we want to make sure that, hey, they're not delinquent in anything, and no one has identified that's the case. But if something were to show up later, it wouldn't necessarily mean that we couldn't pursue that, but I have no information to believe that's the case.
okay. Number 4 is the fire department mutual aid agreement with Oradell. Apparently, this is a yearly agreement, and this basically connects the Hackensack Fire Department. The city would back up water rescue teams if called upon, and this is done by resolution every year. So this is just a renewal of a long-standing agreement between Hackensack and Oradell. My next item is Stide Park updates. The Darmafowski Engineering has reviewed and incorporated the comments, and we're now ready to go out to bid. This is for all the improvements that have been identified for Stide Park, the canopy, the bathroom.
But we don't see the changes yet and the numbers, how much it's gonna cost or what are they gonna do?
Well, I think that you're gonna see all of them, because we're gonna go out to bid and see what the bid numbers come in, and then we can either approve them or reject them. So we don't really know what that answer is gonna be until we go out and basically search the market. So, if the bids come in too high and we feel they're unreasonable, we just cancel the bids or omit them.
But this is just for the original plan where we were doing,
Yes.
moving the playground and doing the
Correct.
pavilion. This has nothing to do with, I know recently we've been talking, folks from the Environmental Commission wanted to do some stuff in the back of that park.
Right.
This does not include
Has
anything there.
none of that is
This is only
inclusive.
the initial
This is-
stuff,
this is
like
a-
saying minus the dog park.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Next is the Warren Street meter rate. This was omitted once
By mistake.
before, so now the offer is $1, and this is an amendment to Chapter 170 parking revision for Warren Street. I think
Just
it's-
makes it similar with everybody else.
Right.
so-
Yes, and I just want to point out, it's my understanding that the original ordinance that we adopted at the last meeting was a February 1st effective date, but that's been modified to, is that correct? That the meter increases are going to be on March 1st now. So this ordinance will be adopted in time so that everything can be increased consistently. So it's not going to be an issue in terms of signage, that everything will be put into place all together at once, assuming the council adopts first reading tonight and second reading at the first meeting in February. It should be good to go.
Okay, and last on my list is number 7, a discussion item for painting the curbs yellow 50 feet from every stop sign in the city. This becomes a budgetary item. Obviously, we discuss almost every council meeting on how we can improve pedestrian safety and safety of reducing accidents in this conflict. Obviously, vehicles that park near the stop sign that are in violation become a sight distance problem for either other motorists or pedestrians. So if there's council support, we will commence on painting curbs. Soon as weather permits, we'll put it in the budget, and we'll start with areas that we have real concerns and basically work our way from very aggressively in the areas that are a real concern to as we project out, because obviously it will take a little time to paint all the curbing from 50 feet back from every stop sign.
Is it just the stop signs, or is it, I mean, you don't want anyone parking too close to any of the corners, right?
Well, the stop sign, well,
Because
they
the
can make it a
visibility-
no standing, no stopping zone if that needs to be also added because it's a conflict, but in all cases, a stop sign violation is 50 feet. So that primarily almost covers,
Yeah, but you got some idea like in the Fairmont Avenue that run all the way without stop signs from Grand Avenue all the way to Summit, that you got the corners of Chrome, Pine, Herman, that they need that yellow line, that way people don't park so close to the corner in the Fairmont Avenue, because when you're gonna make a left, let's see Chrome or Pine, whatever, the Fairmont Avenue is a street that everybody fly. Then if you wanna make a left, and if the car is too close to the corner, it block your view, and when you made the left, the car that coming there is right there, and you don't have no time to react.
I mean, you're saying it's the ordinance or the law that we have is 50 feet from
the
a
state
stop
of New
sign.
Jersey,
New Jersey.
under Title 39.
So what if
requires
there
that-
isn't a stop sign? What's the distance? You're
then
not
you-
allowed to
Well,
park.
then you can set it to what you want.
Have
The-
we done that in an ordinance, do we know?
We can do it in an ordinance. I have not checked the,
We should probably check, because I agree with Leo that people are squeezing in everywhere.
Yeah.
And near the hospital too, where it's like a nightmare, and they're just trying to put cars wherever they can. They're parking way too close to the
On
corners.
the corner of Ross and Grand, the stop sign is on the Ross side, like facing Ross, but if you make that right onto Grand, there's always a car right up to that edge and you can't see because
Can't
it's
see.
curb, and they come flying, so.
but the city,
I think it should be also driveways too, because some cars are parked right on somebody's driveway where they can't see how to get out or whatever too. Something needs to be done about these driveways too.
all right, well,
That's gonna be
We
a tough
approved
one.
the
That's gonna
money,
be tough.
we approved the money to use the yellow paint, and then we will look and go by priorities, what we should be do first, or what particular corner is really dangerous, then we do everything we can. As long as you got the money for the yellow paint, we can wear the rest.
Yeah, I mean, just take a map and work
Right,
through the
Coach?
city.
I understand.
Work through the city, and I mean, I think doing the corners and whether it's a stop sign or not, whatever we decide the proper,
Yeah.
would make the most sense, so
It's to
people
pick
know.
up
not
the
to-
dangerous corners to begin, and then we go.
I have a field advisor that I'll get a list from that
Sure.
will probably educate
Yeah.
me on the priority of those, who remains anonymous, but I'm sure we'll get started.
No problem.
That would complete the city manager's report for the committee of the whole.
Can I just add an
Oh,
FAA?
I apologize.
That's okay.
On the bottom of the list, I have two things. We are still continuing to work at the noise and the tannic, and now we will hear from Kathleen Catastrino on an update. Thank you.
Okay. I'm also the city representative at the Teterboro Airport Noise Abatement Committee. And we have quarterly meetings on top of other meetings that have been going on, trying to get this new flight path going. So we had our quarterly meeting this past Wednesday, so I always give a little bit of a debrief following that meeting. So interestingly enough, now we're looking, I always look at noise and what's affecting the city of Hackensack. So now we have our whole year in from January to December of 2019. And what I've been focusing on is, we have a noise monitor that is stationary on Prospect Ave. I think it's on maybe the 6th floor of the hospital. It's not even on the roof of the hospital. And those statistics are put out for our discussion at each of the meetings. So I've been looking at, say, 78 to 82 decibel noise events, because that's a considerable amount of noise. So now that I have a whole year's data, just an interesting fact, so if you're looking between 78 and 82 decibels, we're averaging about 73 events a day in the city of Hackensack. I mean, and that's a lot. So you're seeing, and at night, of course, it's less. So during the day, you're seeing a considerable amount of events every hour that are between 78 and 82 decibels. So it's just more and more of a reason for us, to continue. Of all of the other towns that are part of TANAC and part of this discussion, Hackensack, Prospect Avenue area is absolutely the worst of everyone. So, our residents have the right to make issue, and certainly to continue to support this new alternate flight path that will be following Route 17 and get that air traffic away from Prospect Avenue. So that was, interesting, new piece of information. They're still on target for the end of March 26th or March 28th, I forget, it's one of those days, where they will be coming out with their final announcement that this is now released and is going to be available for pilots to fly. So they're in the final stages. We've been asking everyone to log in and give a positive comment, because they are looking for positive comments on, folks from Hackensack. We'll see this as a great relief to them. Not only a noise issue, but a safety issue, and our concerns with planes that are flying that low at such a high elevation, especially the size of the apartments that are on Prospect as well. So that website, if you go to the city website, hackensack.org, there's a link directly to that on the home page of our website. So you click on that, and there's a place you can hit a button, submit comment. And we encourage folks in the city to do that. Okay, the other thing I always ask folks to do is to register noise complaints. See something, say something, and the phone number, everything, email is also on the city's website. And we were like in competition with Rutherford. We've been for a long time as the number of complaints. And last time I was so happy because we beat them finally, the number of complaints. Well, they must have got their backups, because the number for the end of the year is close call, but they edged us out. So they had 504 complaints this year, and we had 483. But by far, this is the best we've ever done as a city. We were usually much, much, much less. So I thank everyone who is continuing to do that. It's very important. And, I've explained this a number of times, but, there still is uniqueness that's attached to this component, and the uniqueness is very important. In other words, if there's 1,000 complaints but they're made by the same 10 people, it's not as important to the FAA as if 1,000 complaints are made by 1,000 people, because it shows you're just affecting a greater part of the population. So even though we fell shy of the 504, we certainly had many more unique complainers. So for example, our 483 complaints were made by 349 individuals, separate individuals, where their 504 were made by the same 48 people. So, you know, we certainly get credit for that. I want to get credit for us as the city of Hackensack. So it still made me feel good and be able to let folks know that our residents are certainly being proactive and getting out there and with noise issues. So now I have one, I always ask for something, yes? Because it wouldn't be me if I didn't ask for something. So now I'm going to ask, especially for folks that live in the Prospect Avenue area. I had a few people from town that actually came to the last meeting, which is good, and they spoke at the last meeting. So after the meeting, the FAA and the people from the airport, really more than the FAA folks, insist that the aircraft never flies next to any of the buildings on Prospect. Now, I know I have a couple of photos of them flying next to them. They insist that they are always, always over the buildings, and that makes a big difference for safety. So I'm asking everyone, if you see an aircraft flying next to a building, not over it, take a picture, send it to the city, because it just helps us, again, reinforce our safety concerns that, yes, they're not always flying over the buildings. They are, on occasion, flying next to the buildings.
Not to let you
Yes.
know the time that the plane.
Yeah, well, and Leo brings up a good point. If you take the picture, if you could note the date and time that it happened, because that way they can trace to that particular aircraft and to the owner of the company, the owner of the aircraft that's doing that type of flying. So yes, thanks, Leo. So both of those pieces of information are very important. And again, let's keep hoping that we get this flight path in soon, especially before the summer when the noise really bothers us the most. Thanks, Ted. Okay, so if that's it, can I have a motion to open to the public?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so at this time, anyone who would like to speak, please come up to the podium, give your name and address to the clerk, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes.
Marty Smith, 245 Prospect Avenue. I'm a member of the Condo Co-op Advisory Board and chairman of the Traffic Safety and Street Lighting Committee. If you recall, I think last month I mentioned to you that I had an opportunity to do a ride-along with Lieutenant Patel of the Traffic Division to look at different intersections concerning designated crosswalks. At the end of that drive-along with him, I brought to his attention the intersection of Prospect Avenue and Passaic Street, specifically in regard to northbound traffic. We have a problem at that intersection northbound, where we have a merge point for northbound traffic on the north side of Passaic Street. We also have vehicles parked on the east side of Prospect Avenue at that merge point as well. So our committee is suggesting that that intersection have the inside lane of Prospect Avenue nearest the center of the street made into a dedicated left turn with the addition of a green left turn arrow being added to the existing traffic light, and the right lane being made a straight through lane or a right turn lane. This would eliminate the merge point on the north side of Passaic Street on Prospect Avenue.
Is there enough room for that 2 lanes?
I'm sorry?
Is there enough room in the street to have a 2 lanes, to have a turn lane in the street?
Well, there are 2 lanes there currently. That's why the danger exists, because those 2 lanes could conceivably go straight through. And that's why we have the merge sign.
Wouldn't they be required to end this parking along here for room?
It's still a merge point, though.
I get that,
For
but,
2 lanes of traffic going through.
That will help.
right, but this picture does a great job of identifying that these vehicles that are parked here, in my opinion, if you're gonna make a left-hand turn and one's gonna be a through lane, that these vehicles would no
Should be
longer be allowed to
removed.
park there.
Well, the parked vehicles only add to the problem, because if we have the inside lane as a left turn lane, that eliminates the need for any merging to occur on the north side of Passaic Street.
But I think what City Manager.
It's very
You
simple.
can't really go straight in that lane, correct? You'd hit the parked cars.
Now, if we make this adjustment at that intersection, it would bring that intersection into the same configuration as we currently have on Passaic and Summit Avenue, where we have dedicated left turn lanes for both north and south traffic, and the right lanes being made straight through or right turn lanes. The other thing we're suggesting to the council,
Sorry, Mr. Smith, your time is up. If you have other comments, we'll be here after this meeting, or you could meet with the city manager to discuss those things. Okay?
Do you want your photo back, sir?
Kathy,
Thank you.
And Ted, tell traffic to take a look at it.
Yep, oh, I will.
Kathy, in this kind of meetings, the people come to the podium with no open time,
No, that's only on an ordinance.
okay?
Good evening, everyone. Gary Tizano, Fairmount Avenue, Environmental Commission Chair. At the council meeting of August 21st, 2018, the Environmental Commission came up with an idea to possibly look into building a pocket park on American Legion Drive, which is railroad property by the Susquehanna, Northwest Railroad, Susquehanna and Northwest. So it's been 17 months. We spoke on the idea of having the pocket park. It's approximately, it's between Prospect Avenue and Overlook. There's a grass area. The city property line actually goes into that grass area several feet, and the rest is railroad property where the train station used to be for over 100 years. So currently, the city maintains that strip of grass. We cut it, and we do the best we can to maintain the trash that is constantly being thrown there by whoever, okay? The pocket parks is part of our next project in the city. We've been looking at areas where we can either improve them, find some more green space. Currently, the project has been conducted by the city to look into building that ROSI list, the Recreational Open Space Index, which is almost completed. Okay? There has been recent rumors of possibly going back and looking into the idea of having that property developed, or I should say from Central Avenue side of the tracks over the railroad property, over American Legion, and going to the high-rise that's there. That was an idea that was back probably 20 years, and that went away. So there's a rumor out there. I don't know if that's still going on. If there's interest in that, so be it. If so, hopefully you can let us know if that's moving forward, and we'll abandon that, because there's no sense putting a lot of time into it if we don't have a shot at trying to do that. Now, on the Summit Avenue to Prospect Avenue's portion is the wooded area, and it's really an eyesore because there's soil erosion, there's no curb. We're not asking for a sidewalk, but the city should look into building a curb because the cars park in the gully and it just adds to the erosion, okay? Just the point of view on that, okay? Today I went up to Fort Lee for the combined sewer overflow meeting that's being worked on by Acatus and the city project on trying to split the system. I'll be real quick if I could have another 30 seconds. Okay, Fort Lee, Richfield Park, Hackensack, and the BCUA conducted that. But and that's an ongoing deal. But what I wanted to get to is a superintendent from Fort Lee was there, DPW superintendent, and I just happened to say, what do you guys do with your snow up here on the main streets? Because they have a business district that's probably, if you added all the streets together, be as long as our main street. All around the George Washington Bridge. They have a snow melter. They've had it for a few years, and they like it, and they take the snow to a DPW yard where they melt it, and it goes down the drain. And they're real comfortable with that. So I don't want to kill anybody else's time, but please look into
Yeah,
it.
we talked about this before, the snow melter, and we were going to get some prices, because I think it's something we may have to look into. Thanks, Gary. Anyone else? Seeing no one from the public, can I have a motion to close to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Anyone from the council like to speak now, or you want to wait till after the council meeting? Okay. Deb, I need a resolution to go into closed session.
Okay, we have a resolution calling for an executive meeting of the city council. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack deem it necessary to discuss certain actions under sections 7B7 and 7B8 of the Open Public Meeting Act, which pertain to matters falling within attorney-client privilege, ongoing litigation, and personnel matters concerning the employment of a current or prospective public employee. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack is of the opinion that such circumstances may presently exist. And whereas the mayor and council wishes to discuss the following issues: personnel matters, ongoing litigation, matters involving attorney-client privilege, matters involving the purchase, lease, or acquisition of real property, any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiations. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack deem it necessary to exclude the public from this discussion. The outcome of the discussion will be disclosed within 90 days or at such time as the interests of the city do not require confidentiality.
Do you have anything, Steve?
I do have a few cases to discuss. They include the Sharif case, the DeFries case. I'll note there's an addition to the council agenda regarding the potential resolution of that case, the Nunnermacher case, and the Salkin case. There may be others, but those are the ones that are on the top of my agenda at the moment.
Okay, we need a
May I
motion.
have a motion, please?
Offer.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so we'll see everyone at 8 o'clock. Good evening, everyone.
Need a motion to close the executive session?
Can I have a motion to close the executive session?
Offer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Roll call?
We need a motion to close the
Oh, the cow, I'm sorry. Motion to close the committee of the whole?
Offer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none?